All right. Well, welcome in, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy, coming to you tonight live stream style. Haven't played a lot with the live stream, so giving it a test run tonight. I am up here in the beautiful city of Presque Maine. Because I woke up this morning, it was only 3 degrees, and I thought, man, I'd like it to be a little colder. So jumped in my car, drove 5 hours, and here I am. Up here for a little bit of work here next couple of days, and a whole lot of hockey to talk about. As I said tonight, I kind of made the decision to try this as a live stream. I'm not expecting a whole lot of chatter here tonight. Didn't really advertise it too well, but I am going to be doing a live stream on Friday starting at 11 a.m. For the NHL trade deadline. So I just wanted to get a little bit comfortable with just the setup with the live stream and how it works on YouTube and all that good stuff because I, again, just haven't played with it a lot. So I want to take a little bit of time tonight, talk about the Maine Mariners, what we saw over the weekend and going back to last Wednesday. We'll, of course, talk a little bit about the Boston Bruins and kind of their, for lack of a better word, meddling play and offensive woes. We'll get into a little bit of NHL stuff, looking at the trade deadline, of course, coming up here on Friday. And if anybody does chime in and chat, we'd love to hear from people. Like I said, I came up with this idea about an hour ago, like, oh, maybe I'll try a live stream. So, yeah, didn't really give it a whole lot of advertisement. So, I'm not expecting a lot of engagement here live, but this will be recorded, of course, and will be on the channel, so you guys can check it out later. Of course, the Maine Mariners winning their last game there in Wheeling, West Virginia, but over the last 4, 2-2, going back to the series against the Reading Royals. We'll go back and look at that Wednesday night game, a game that they did win 4-3. In overtime, going back to Wednesday, Maine out shooting Reading 38-28 in that one. Reading got the better of the first period, 5-11, but Maine poured it on the last two periods, 15-9 in shots and 16-7, and then of course 2-1 in the overtime for the shots on goal there. Maine 0 for 1 on the power play, Reading 0 for 2. Goal scoring here for the Mariners. Lampa getting his 6th goal of the season, assisted by Sarlo and McDonald. Sarlo, and we'll certainly talk about Sarlo as we go on here, his 7th of the season there in that third period, assisted by Lampa and McCallum. Sarlo again in the third period, assisted by, again, Lampa and McCallum. And then, of course, it's Sebastian Vidmar at the 3:08 mark in overtime, winning that game, his 6th of the year, to make it a 4-3 victory. Meyer in net on this one, 25 shots, 25 saves on 28 shots for him, so good outing for him. And again, a much-needed win. All these wins are much needed for the boys. And I do apologize. This cough is continuing to wreak havoc on me. I'm going to continue to try to hit the mute button here as I go. I don't know what it is about this lingering cough, but it will not die. I still remember as a child, my mother had this really habitual cough where she was always coughing. I wonder if I've picked this up from her, but it was always really convenient. If you were in a grocery store or in a convenience store and you were a couple aisles over from your mom, you were trying to find her, you just stop and listen for a cough, like, oh, she's in aisle 7. All right, I'll go find her. So it was actually quite convenient. But I don't know if it's a hereditary thing or it's just this damn cold that just won't leave me alone. Anyway, let's move on to Friday night's game back at Reading. Reading getting this one 4-2 over the Mariners. Maine out shooting Reading 31-24 in this one. 9 shots for Maine to 12 in the first to Reading. 9-6 for the shots there in the second. Maine with 9, Reading with 6, and 13-6. Maine in the third period as they were trying to chase that score a little bit. Maine was 0 for 2 on the power play, Reading 1 for 4. Goal scorers in this one for the Mariners. McCallum with his 18th there in the first period. McCallum again in the third period at the 12:29 mark. That one was assisted by Sarlo and newcomer Kelvis getting an assist there. Bichel and net on this one, 20 saves on 23 shots. He do take the loss, however, on that one. Going over to Saturday night, Another loss for Maine. A tough one here where you had the lead going into the third period. Maine kind of running out of gas in this one, losing it 5-3 after being up 3-2 at the end of 40 minutes. Maine again out shooting Reading 27-25 in this one. Maine had 7 shots to 8 for Reading, 13-5 to Maine in the second, and Reading actually out shooting the Mariners 12-7 in that third period. A lot of power play opportunities in this one. Maine was 1 for 5, Reading 1 for 4. Sorry about that cough, guys. Goal scores here for your Mariners. Sebastian Vidmar with his 7th of the season there in the second period. Zeke with the assist there. Sarla with his 9th of the season, with McCallum and Bean getting the apples there. Sarla again in the second period later on the 16:52 mark in his 10th of the season. It's Lampa and Vidmar with the helpers there. And those are your goal scores for the Mariners. That last one for Sarla was the power play goal. Meyer back in net, 20 saves on 24 shots, does take the loss in this one. And that brings us to Sunday afternoon. The boys pack up in Reading, have to make the drive to Wheeling, West Virginia. Really good team, obviously team we've only played 2 other times this season. We'll open the season with the Wheeling group there, Wheeling Nailers. Splitting, I think, those first 2 games of the season, and this will be the last game that we play against them. So I do wonder about the scheduling in the ECHL. You play Reading and Worcester and all these other teams. I know they're close by, but you play them 12, 13 times, and you play Wheeling 3. Not very balanced. I'm sure there's some rhyme or reason to that, but a real gutsy win for the Mariners. So listen, regardless of if they make or not make the playoffs, and right now it's clearly not looking like they're going to be a playoff team, this is a really gutsy win after a very long road trip. You've been in, Rapid City and Norfolk and Reading, and then you got to jump, back on the bus Saturday night and drive to West Virginia, and you pull this one out in a shootout, getting this one 2-1 against a very, very good Wheeling team. Maine actually getting outshot in this one 31-30, so quite even there on the shots. 10-8 for the Mariners in the first period, 11-8 in the second for Maine. Wheeling really kind of taking it to them, though, 13-3 in the third. Wheeling really kind of controlled that third period and getting the goal there to tie it up. Overtime, shots for 5-2 for Maine, and then, of course, the shootout kind of is what it is. Maine was 0 for 1 on the power play, Wheeling 0 for 3. So DeVoe, your only goal scorer for Maine in regulation, getting his 12th of the season. Kalmakoff and Hemstrom with the helpers there. And, of course, going to the shootout, goes to that third round. Of course, Kalmakoff gets the first one. Hudson denied on the second round, and Sebastian Vidmar with the game-winning goal there. All right. So, looking at this now, the team is 21-30-3, 45 points, 4-6 over the past 10. As we look at the standings, they are 54 games into the season, guys. So that means we're 18 games left here to play. You have 45 points, and Worcester sitting in 4th at 58 points. Still have that 1 game in hand. Of course, you cash one of those in over the weekend, but still 13 points down. So, 18 games to go, 13 points down. Math is getting really challenging at this point. And it's really what it is. It's a math equation at this point. Like, how many games left, how many available points, and is Worcester going to fall off the rails? No pun intended, right? Worcester Railers. I just made that one up myself. Look at me go. But yeah, they're 6-4 over their last 10. They've won 2 in a row. And you still have Reading, in between you. So you got to jump 2 teams to get there. It's just looking very, very unlikely. I know this is not breaking news for any Mariner fans, but I know, after a couple of wins, you got it down to, I think, 11 points behind. So you started thinking, all right, a couple more wins for us, a couple more losses for Worcester. But, with every passing game and every passing weekend, it is getting harder and harder to think about the Mariners being able to pull this off. It would be miraculous, and I will say this, if they're able to somehow pull this off, they'll be coming in hot. I mean, they'll be coming in playing 850, 900 hockey, playing really hot, maybe not a team to want to face, but we haven't seen it, all year from this group. We just haven't seen enough consistency of, I don't want to say effort and energy. The effort and energy has been there all year, but the results. You win a game or two, and then you fall back. It's a win one lose one, win one lose two. You haven't seen that consistent like winning 6 out of 7 that you really need to see out of this group. A lot of reasons for that. But let's go back to the last 4 games. Hard not to look at Christian Sarlo and just been a man on fire over the past 4 games. 4 goals, 3 assists over the last 4 games for 7 points. Some of the production that we're getting here over the last 4 games is kind of what we were hoping for kind of earlier on when the team was really kind of struggling for goals and struggling for scoring. Vidmar, 2 goals and 1 assist over that same time. McCallum continuing to score as well, 2 goals and 2 assists with 4 points. And Xander Lampa, goal and 2 assists in that time as well. Over the last 4, the power play was 1 for 9. The PK continuing to stay strong for the Mariners. 11 out of 13 there kills for them. So again, some silver lining. I think some things that Coach Wallen can build on for the future. I mean, if we're, again, assuming they're not making the playoffs this year, this is something that the team can definitely build on, going into 25, 26. And, of course, going back to, my conversation with Dexter Payne and Mike Keeley, there's a lot of things in place that the team is looking to do in terms of strengthening that relationship with Providence and hoping to get more support from them. The data science project they're working on with UNE, there's a lot of things in place long term, and you hope that this team, from a roster construction perspective, will be a little bit meatier, a little bit more, just more effective, just a little different. I think the mix in the room will have to be a little different. I give Coach Wallen all the credit in the world. I know, guys, a lot of fans out there may not want to hear me say this, but he has pushed every button, pulled every lever. I think he has tried everything he possibly can to get the most out of this team. You had some hurdles. You had the Europe hurdle where you lost 3 players there. You had the Providence hurdle where you just didn't get a whole lot of help. You had the injury hurdle. Listen, Veerling, a huge loss. Peterson, huge loss. These are, top 6, top 3 guys that you were fully expecting to have around here this year. And, you're not getting the production there. A lot of big losses. But, looking at all the trades and looking at all the things that coaches tried to do, he hasn't given up. And I think there's some credit that should be given there. It's very easy to just kind of be like, well, it is what it is, and we're just going to keep riding with what we have. But he's continued to, look for trades, look for free agents. They just, of course, brought a couple guys in last week, continuing to tinker. And you got to give him credit for that. It's, again, talking to ECHL, this is not easy. These are not guys that are getting rich playing in this league. You're fighting Europe, you're fighting the AHL, for talent, the SPHL as well. So, again, not trying to sit here and make excuses. I'm just trying to say, listen, I think we should give Coach a little bit of credit for at least, trying every last thing that he could before we got to this point. And I think they're going to continue to fight to the end. And, hopefully, listen, like Dexter Payne said, you have to Woes as your captain, trying to lean on these guys that will hopefully be back next year to, help with that recruiting, help with, talking to other ECHL players about coming to Maine and the experience it can be and the place it can be. Listen, Portland's a wonderful city to live in. Yeah, it was 3 degrees this morning, right? But it's a wonderful place to be. And I'll just be really curious to see as we go into the summer. And I don't want to do a postmortem tonight. I'm not going to do that. We still have 18 games to go. But looking at the reality, we got to start really thinking about building for the future, building for next year, and what is this roster going to look like? How is it going to be constructed? I'm going to be really curious to see how all that goes. So after a month on the road, of course, the Mariners are coming home Friday night. They've got those same Reading Royals coming in at 7:15 puck drop there from the Cross Insurance Arena. And then again on the 8th, a 6 p.m. drop again against the Royals. No Sunday game this week, but you do have the Tuesday morning game. This is the school game that they play every year, 10:30 start, 10:30 a.m. against Norfolk. Norfolk's last visit to Maine for the season. So those are your next three coming up. I think they have I think it's 11 home games left, if I'm not mistaken. So take a little sip here. I know people say, "Oh, you get this coffee, you're sitting there drinking a Miller Lite. Is that helping you to cough?" No, but it tastes just good. It tastes just fine. So that's where we are with the Mariners, guys. It's kind of more of the same, right? A couple of good wins, some gutsy wins, some gritty wins, and just some losses where you come up a little bit short. I go back to the Saturday night game where you're up 3-2, feeling pretty good. And it just looked like that Saturday, that third period, they just ran out of gas, giving up those 3 goals in that third period. You needed a 3 out of 4. That's kind of what you needed. 2 out of 2, a 2 out of 4 doesn't really do much for you. You're still down 13 points. So anyway, let's move on to another kind of sour subject for me. The Boston Bruins, of course, losing in Minnesota in their last effort out there Sunday afternoon, 1-0 game here for the Boston Bruins, a team that is in just complete desperation mode, needing every single possible win you can get. And you give up another one. That's just a very winnable game against the Minnesota team that was very beat up, very much like the Bruins roster. They're down big time players in this one, from Kaprizov to Eriksson Ek wasn't out there. Hartman wasn't out there. I mean, this was a kind of a deflated Minnesota roster. Again, we know the Bruins issues with McAvoy and Lindholm and Frederick, of course, Marchand in this one as well. But a very winnable game. Of course, you had a goal that looked like it had gone in for Boston earlier on. It was kind of pinned under the goaltender's pads there. Referee blows the play dead, and during that second or two there, the Boston's able to tap it in, but they blew it dead. Kind of a 50-50 one there. I mean, once the rep blows it dead, there's nothing you can do about it. It's a no goal. Again, just kind of a tough break. And what was a series of tough breaks for the Bruins in this one. You go, of course, to the only goal scored. And it's all about kind of Morgan Geeky's been so good for the team this year. I don't want to pick on the guy, but it all starts with an icing call where Geeky is going down the ice to grab the puck, in the O zone, thinks he has it beat, thinks there's not going to be an icing call. You can see kind of backs up a little, holds up a little bit, doesn't kind of skate through. He and that line they were at the end of a shift anyway. And it was a little bit of a discussion, like, did I really get beat out on that? And you watch it, the Minnesota guy that kind of does beat him to the puck. So I do actually technically think it was probably the right call for that icing. What wasn't the right non-call was you get to that face-off, Minnesota gets the puck, Geeky's stick is slashed out of his hands, and immediately the puck goes in the net right after that. Geeky's out there defending without a stick, and all the time Geeky's like hands up in the air, like you didn't see this happen here, ref. Like, what happened? Technically, I'm sure if referees are going to look at that, they're going to say, "Yeah, we probably should have called a slash on that. Probably no goal." Regardless, it's one goal. You got to play through those things. Those things happen. Refs are going to miss things. They're not intending to miss things. I'm sure Minnesota fans will probably say, yeah, it's kind of a 50-50. They just kind of skated into each other, and all of a sudden he didn't have a stick. But to me, it looked like enough there. I mean, I've seen a lot less be called a slash this year in hockey. But it's kind of hiding the bigger problem for this team. It's okay, you lose 1-0. The problem is you lose 1-0. Okay, you can't overcome one kind of bad series of plays that lead to just one goal. Just one. All we're asking for is 2 goals, and the Bruins just can't do it. I mean, you look at the roster they put out there, and God bless them. Those guys, he had a lot of Providence guys up for that game. They played, I thought quite well, for what you were expecting them to do. Vial was out there, Merkelov was out there, Brazeau was back out there. Just a tough one. And it's just, this is a type of team now that if Pasta's not going, if he's not scoring, you're not scoring as a team. There was a stat that came up on NHL radio earlier today, and I think that Pasta has been a part of, I think it was around 45% of all goals scored by the Boston Bruins this year. It's incredible for Pasta, great enough, but not great for the team. Like, if Pasta is not scoring, you're not scoring. That's putting so much on one player's back. Of course, Pasta did have his 17-game point streak end on this one, guys. So just a tough one in a situation where, again, you can look at a winnable game. Swayman played just fine in this one. Tough. Now, one player that I've been fairly critical of over the last kind of number of weeks has been Mason Lohrei. But I do have to give the kid some props for the last few games here. He's played markedly better. Even defensively, I think he's starting to tighten things up. He's starting to simplify a little bit. I think you're starting to see him play a little bit more simple defensively. And man, some of the offensive skills this kid has is just tremendous. I can't remember what time of the game it was, but he did this. He had this play where he just kind of skated through maybe the whole Minnesota team and skated kind of down the ice and across and got a shot off. And it was just an absolute thing of beauty. And you can just see the offensive skill. You can see the offensive talent that's there. It's remarkable. As long as he continues to tighten up those defensive skills, I think you may have a real gem here with Lohrei. One of the silver linings for Boston. Listen, we're not winning the Stanley Cup this year. They're probably, very borderline about being in the playoffs this year. I mean, they're not in it right now, and they've got a dogfight to get there. But a silver lining is, I'll go back to Lohrei. The fact that you have these guys that are out with McAvoy and Lindholm, he's getting a lot of ice time. Yes, he's making those mistakes here in Boston. You'd rather those mistakes happen in Providence, but he's getting that time. And I think with continued development, this could be extremely valuable for future for the Boston Bruins and for Lohrei himself. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about what this could mean when you go into next season, when maybe he's more of a second pairing, a third pairing type of guy. When you have Lindholm and McAvoy and everybody kind of back healthy, could be really, really exciting stuff. So. Again, apologize for the continued coughing here, guys. Looking at the standings right now, I'm just going to pull these up real quick for us, guys. So your Boston Bruins are in sixth place still, 28, 26, and 8, 64 points. And when we look at the wild card, of course, we all kind of know where they're at. They are buried down the list. Of course, you have Columbus sitting number 1, Detroit number 2. Columbus with 68 points, Detroit with 66. Ottawa, New York Rangers, and Boston all there with 64 points. The problem is Boston has no games in hand. Ottawa actually has 3 games in hand on you if you're a Bruins fan. And Montreal Canadiens are 1 point behind you. And the Philadelphia Flyers only 2 points behind you. So you've got just a slew of teams, and this will go into kind of this trade deadline week in terms of what we're expecting, because you can make a case for so many teams here in the East that still feel like they have a chance. I mean, if you're the Philadelphia Flyers right now, you're sitting there thinking, we're only 4 points out of a playoff spot. That's crazy. That's the crazy world right now. I mean, the parity throughout this East has been nothing short of remarkable this year. It's the only reason Boston's still in it is you've got so many teams kind of glummed up together here. But yeah, you got a dogfight here, right? You have Ottawa has 3 games in hand on you. New York has 2 games in hand. Both Columbus and Detroit have 2 games in hand on you. So, just kind of some tough sledding there for the boys. Just looking next up here for the Bruins, they will be back home at the Garden tomorrow night with the Nashville Predators coming into town, 7 p.m. drop there for the team. And then I believe they're back at it. Hold on. On Thursday, they head to Carolina, Thursday night, 7 o'clock as well. Tough place to play, a team that definitely brutalized us. I think they put an 8 spot on us earlier on this year. So that's going to be a tough one there. But just one game at a time. Get all, any points you can get, obviously, is going to be really, really important for this team. Just my take right now, I just don't see it happening. You might sneak into a wild card, maybe. I'm really questioning that at this point. And if you do, what are you doing against Washington? I mean, Washington might be the one team you could, potentially, if you're healthy, stand up against. You're not beating Florida. You're not beating Tampa the way they're playing right now. Toronto, if you have to end up playing them, I don't think you're beating them either. It's just kind of not your year. It's not your year. It's going to make the trade deadline very, very interesting. Other news around the NHL. Let's just take a look at our scoreboard right now, guys. We do have the Senators and Capitals in the third period, tied 3-3. The OV watch is on. No goals for Ovi at this point tonight, but he is 11 away from tying or from breaking that record for sure. Getting very, very close. Let's see. Other scores. We've got the Canadiens up 3-1 end of the second period on the Buffalo Sabres. The game I'm watching here is Florida and Tampa. End of the second. There, Panthers up 2-0. Barkov with both of those goals. The New York Rangers up 2-0 on the Islanders at the end of 2. Sharks and Maple Leafs are in the second period. Sharks holding tight, 0-0 game there. The Blackhawks actually up on the LA Kings in Chicago. 9 minutes to go in the first period there. So looking at the scoreboard, if you're a Bruins fan, you need the Capitals to win. You really like the Sabres to beat the Canadiens because they're right there behind you. Panthers and Lightning, you don't really care about. You'd really like the Rangers to lose. So things kind of not going your way tonight on the scoreboard if you are a Boston Bruins fan. We do have a couple of trades that did take place here over the weekend. UMaine alum or former UMaine Blackberry Gustav Nyquist getting traded to the Minnesota Wild from the Nashville Predators in exchange for a 2026 second-round pick. Of course, Nyquist had played there prior to. Numbers for Nyquist on the year, he has 58 games played, 9 goals, 12 assists for 21 points, and I think will fit in very, very well there. Kind of a low price there, just a second round pick to get a good middle line scoring forward. A Minnesota team, as we talked about before, that is just kind of beat up right now. A lot of guys out and missing, so good trade there. The Florida Panthers made news as well, trading for defenseman Seth Jones from the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, Jones very vocal about his displeasure being in Chicago, and he gets jettisoned out of town along with a 2026 fourth-round pick in exchange for goalie Spencer Knight and a 2026 first-round draft pick. A lot of interesting takes on this trade. When I first saw it, I kind of thought, ooh, that's a good get for Chicago. I think anytime you get a first-round pick, yes, I get it. It's probably going to be a late first-round pick, but you get a first-round pick, and you get a good young goaltender, something Chicago hasn't really had for a while. So I think that's a really good get for a Chicago team going no place fast this year, moving off a guy that didn't want to be there, and you open up that cap space for him. And listen, for Florida, you get a good, I think Jones is like 30 years old. So you get a defenseman who, maybe isn't playing to the level that he was, 4 or 5 years ago, but again, been in that Chicago system that hasn't been very good. He's going to Florida. He's not going to be asked to do a ton. He's not going to be asked to play, 25 minutes a night. He's not going to be on the first pairing. He can slide in there and be one of those good, solid depth defensemen for them. And I think for this year, Jones is probably a pretty good guy. I'm not a big Seth Jones fan myself, but I do think that he's a really good fit for them this year. We'll be curious to see how that goes down the road. Of course, the Panthers, if you're a Panthers fan, You don't care about next year or the year after. You're all in on this year. And you've got a team that could very well go back to their third Stanley Cup in a row. We also have another trade between the Colorado Avalanche and the New York Rangers. Of course, Ryan Lindgren, defenseman, along with left winger Jimmy Vesey and goalie Nicholas Kemp, going to Colorado in exchange for center Parsonen and Calvin DeHaan, defenseman from Colorado, along with a 2025 second round pick and a 2025 fourth round pick. Interesting trade here. Lindgren not having a great year, I think does provide some good depth for Colorado. I like the VC part of this as well for Colorado, kind of a fourth line winger, can give them some depth there. Lindgren wasn't coming back. I'm quite sure he was going to be a UFA. Wasn't really going to fit into the plans there. Of course, Lindgren, former Boston Bruins draft pick, I believe he was part of the Rick Nash trade, the infamous Rick Nash trade that did not go well for the Bruins. I think he was a big price that went back to the Rangers there. So yeah, I mean, we're not quite at the deadline yet, but we did have a little bit of activity. And I think for the Rangers on this one, it's, they make the JT Miller trades. You think maybe they're going in for it. You trade one of your veteran defensemen. It feels like, oh, maybe you're not, maybe you're retooling. What are you doing here? Overall, you do get DeHaan back, so you do get a defenseman back. And you're just kind of, tweaking things as you go. Be curious. The Rangers will be a really, really curious team to watch at the deadline. A lot like the Bruins, are these teams buyers or sellers? It's going to be a really interesting thing to look at as we move forward over the next few days. Of course, some bad injuries to talk about. We know about the Marchand injury going back to the Islanders game. I haven't seen much of an update yet. Anybody that has any updates there, please feel free to share that out there with me. I haven't seen anything really official come across Twitter or anything like that. Of course, Jack Hughes, not able to finish the game last night. Just an unfortunate play into the boards. A kid who has had nothing but injury problems and injury issues over the last couple of years, is always been kind of a smaller frame, kid, but it's so vitally important to the New Jersey Devils. You just hope the kid's all right. I think the last word we had on this today was that it didn't look like it was going to be anything week to week or month to month, more of a potentially a day to day, but I think the verdict is still out. And listen, the Devils have been kind of reeling a little bit, kind of playing, kind of meddling hockey over the last kind of 20 or so games. So, losing Hughes would be a major blow to their playoff chances and to their Stanley Cup chances. So you obviously hope that he can be all right and get back out there. News today, Matthew Tkachuk heading to LTIR, will not finish the season. And of course, all the comments coming after that about, they're going to try to hide that money and circumvent the cap as you go into the playoffs. And we know that Tampa and Vegas both went down that road. I don't believe Tkachuk is faking anything here. He was definitely couldn't finish the Four Nations, and so going to miss the rest of the year. I think Florida's going to be just fine, and the hope is that he's back for the playoffs. And yeah, this does give them room, to make more moves. They make the Seth Jones move. Maybe they can make some other moves, and see where that goes for them, right? We will see. And of course, the Marchand injury, which I just referenced, with him, with Lindholm, McAvoy. Listen, you put Lindholm on LTIR, that could open up money for Boston. I think Marchand, imagine he'll be back in the next couple of games. I mean, that's just my gut reaction right now. But, for as challenged as this Bruins team is, you cannot be without someone as important as Marchand. If he's out for any length of time, put a fork in this thing, because you are just about done. You're just about done. So yeah, as I said, going into Friday, I am going to do another live stream, and this will kind of count as my podcast for Friday, where I'm going to go for, I'm going to start 11 a.m. Eastern time, and going to hopefully run right to 3 o'clock to the actual trade deadline. We know that moves will come in after that 3 o'clock time frame, but we'll be there to kind of break down all the different trades that happen. I am going to do some previewing of teams I think are going to be buyers, teams I think are going to be sellers, and I'm going to have a list I'm working on right now of players that we expect to see moved through the NHL. And just going to be a fun time. I'm hoping that if it can go well, I'd like to do the same thing July 1st when free agency opens as well. Do kind of a live stream and just provide you guys some feedback. We'll have plenty of time to talk Maine Mariners and probably talk a little bit about the Maine Black Bears coming out their weekend against Vermont and all the excitement around that program. So we're going to have a whole lot more to talk about coming into Friday morning into the afternoon. So it should be a lot of fun. So again, this was just a good little live stream test run tonight. Of course, this recording will be posted to the channel. And I think I'm going to sign off because, I could sit here and babble on, but there's not a whole lot more to talk about. We've kind of covered our Maine Mariners. We looked at the Bruins. Of course, they'll be back on the ice against the Nashville Predators. Need to get that win. And you need to get just, again, every single point you can if you're the Boston Bruins, if you have any chance of making it to that second season. So, like I say, that's what I have for you guys this evening. I'll be back with you Friday morning at 11 a.m. as we get ready for the NHL trade deadline. So, hope everybody has a wonderful evening. We will talk to you all again soon.